The midterm elections are approaching, and there's a lot at stake for both parties. Many Democrats are on the edge. They're concerned about losing their slim control of the U.S. Senate. Some Democratic candidates are keeping their distance from the White House, while some GOP strategists using an old trick. They're attempting to get votes by attacking the Affordable Care Act. David Fuscus is a veteran campaign strategist, and he joins us from Washington, D.C. to talk about some of the key races that are coming up. David, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on Arise America.
Happy to be here.
So surely the House will stay in the hands of the GOP. So let's just mainly talk about the Senate race and maybe some other races that are coming up. How are you reading the tea leaves right about now?
Well, it's clearly favoring the Republicans. Depending on which polls you look at, the Republicans have about a 65% chance of taking control of the U.S. Senate. That's not, of course, guaranteed, but there's some things that have been happening in recent days which are continuing to favor the Republicans.
You know, it's hard to tell who the American public dislikes more, whether it is the Obama administration, President Obama himself, his favorables are very, very low, or Congress. So I guess this disenchantment with Washington in general, who will bear the biggest brunt of that, Congress or the president?
Well, I think the president's going to. If the Senate flips, it's going to really cement him as a lame duck president, unable to get any meaningful legislation through. And one thing, even though Congress's approval ratings are lower, only 12% of the American public approve of Congress, they still have this traditional thing in America where they hate the institution, but they tend to like their incumbent congressman or senator.
You know, it's not so unusual for a House of Legislature to flip to the opposing party of the sitting president. And so many believe that if, in fact, the GOP is able to take the Senate, that means there would be a Republican-controlled legislative branch and, of course, a Democratic executive branch, which would mean a stalemate in an already lame duck session. But even if the Democrats held on to the Senate, they haven't gotten anything done up to now. So does it matter which way it goes?
I actually think that the president's best chance of getting the type of legacy legislation that he wants through Congress is actually if the Republicans do take control of the Senate. Because coming into 2016, if Republicans control the House and the Senate, there's going to be real pressure on them showing that they can make progress in governing. And that would leave the door open for some type of deal with President Obama and his administration, perhaps on things like tax reform or immigration.
You know, one of the things that really does not bode well for the Democrats is historically in midterm elections, Democrats or those that tend to lean Democrat don't often vote in high numbers in these midterm elections. And so it's important for the vote to get out. Is there something that the Democrats can do at this point to get that vote out?
Well, they've got to work very hard at their ground game to identify and get their vote to the polls. Traditionally, the number of people that votes in a midterm election versus a presidential election is about 15% less. So they've really got to get their ground game in order. And they've shown, the Democratic Party has shown, especially with the last presidential campaign, using the technological tools that exist today, that they're good at organizing, good at getting the voters out. If I'm the Democrats right now, I'm putting all my efforts into that ground game, IDing my voters and getting them out to the polls.
Yeah, indeed. There's so much more to talk about. We didn't even get to gubernatorial races, ballot initiatives, but we'll circle back to you before the elections happen. David Fuscus, thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.